Welcome to episode 4 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Last week, Sydney Parker boarded a ship to Antigua in order to defend Georgiana Lamb against a challenge on her inheritance. On the day after, Charlotte feels a mixed sense of relief that he's gone, but also misses his presence at the breakfast table and his teasing throughout the day. She persuades Alison to go shopping. They find themselves in the same street as the chapel where Mr. Molyneux is scheduled to speak. They see him signing books outside of the building before the presentation.
Sim, there's Mr. Molyneux. Would you like to hear him speak?
I suppose it would be all right. Mamma would surely approve.
Well, we will write to her and tell her what he says. Only, I do not want to mention this to the Parkers. Mr. Sidney would think I was meddling again.
Are you meddling, Charlotte?
No. I just want to hear what he says.
Charlotte and Alison enter the auditorium and see Mr. Hankins, the vicar of Sanditon. Charlotte tries to find a seat before he recognises her, but she's too late.
Good afternoon, Miss Haywood. And Miss Alison, I did not know you were interested in the abolition cause.
Indeed. My mother and father have followed the bills in Parliament since we were children.
That is to their credit, I am sure. I am in town staying with my cousin, Lord Althorpe, while I attend the annual ministerial convention. Indeed, it seems that all Sanditon will be here before the winter is over. Lady Denham even said she was thinking of coming. Very unusual for her. But I had not thought I would chance to meet any of my other parishioners here. Have you met anyone else of our acquaintance in London?
Why, yes. We call on Mrs. Griffiths every day, and Miss Diana Parker and her sister. They have houses here.
Indeed. I was planning to make some calls while I'm here.
They would be glad to see you, sir.
It is starting. Shall we be seated?
Otis Molyneux is introduced as author, publisher, speaker, and a leader in the Sons of Africa. He comes to the podium and begins his speech.
Friends, brothers, and sisters, a great battle was won 10 years ago. No longer are African men and women being kidnapped to be sentenced to death in British-owned sugar plantations. And yet, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, who are still breaking their backs, burning their flesh, sacrificing their children to oppressive men in the New World. Is this to be born in civilized society? Among men who preach the golden rule while they're lining their pockets with tainted gold. The time has come to kill this demon known as slavery. It is not enough to sterilize it, to sequester it, to soften it, for it would remain a demon still. This demon, this dragon, continues to devour the peoples of Africa right under the noses of civilized people. Men who avert their eyes because they do not want to be bothered. I tell you, this demon must be purged from all lands if man would keep a clear conscience before the Lord Almighty. We must not allow our collective conscience to be seared by the burning coals of the sugar refineries, by the blistering heat of the cotton fields, by the ceaseless sting of the master's whip. We must never look upon this treatment as ordinary, as good or acceptable when it is so blatantly evil. We must unshackle this nation from the laws which suckle this demon, any laws which sustain it, any laws which strengthen it, any laws which suffer the free reign of evil over the innocent, any laws which attempt to salvage any shred of its savagery These laws must be overturned.
Applause erupts. After the speech, Otis is surrounded by admirers, but he pushes through them to the Haywards.
Miss Haywood, is Miss Lamb with you?
No.
Is she in London?
I cannot tell you where she is.
If you see her, will you give her a message?
I'm sorry, Mr. Molyneux, I cannot.
I know you care for Georgiana. Please, tell her I have mended my ways. I've left the gaming tables. I make an honest living of bookselling, though it is very little. I would never put her in harm's way again. Will you tell her that, at least?
I am sorry. I can promise nothing. I put her in too much danger the last time.
I hope you do not consider me a danger any longer. Take one of my books. Perhaps Georgiana will read it as well.
Thank you. Good day.
Charlotte and Alison cross the crowded street, leaving Mr. Molyneux to the admirers who want him to autograph their books. Mr. Hankins is among them. Alison and Charlotte climb into a carriage and take them back to Bedford Place.
Charlotte, do you know what Miss Lamb plans to do with her fortune?
Do? Live on it, I suppose. At least she will have the luxury of marrying for love.
We have that luxury too, Charlotte.
And a lot of good it does us.
Careful, Charlotte. That savours strongly of disappointment.
I know. Let us think on happier things.
Mr. Molyneux is very eloquent today. Do you suppose the law will ever change?
Do you call this a happier subject?
Yes, it is. I think if Mr. Molyneux could make a speech to Parliament, he could persuade them.
That is a happy thought. But I think it will take more than words to overcome the demands of the pocketbook.
Then we must pray for the hearts of men to change.
Indeed we must.
The next morning, Charlotte is shown into Mrs. Griffith's drawing room by a manservant.
Good morning, Miss Haywood.
Good morning. You have a new manservant.
Yes, Mr. Tracy recommended him. It's good to have a man in the house, considering the vulnerable position Miss Lamb is in while Mr. Sidney's gone. Mr. Tracy's so solicitous for his safety, and so handsome.
I understood that Mr. Hankins has come to town for a ministerial convention.
Indeed.
Perhaps he will call on his parishioners?
Now that you mention it, he did come to call. And by the by, Miss Haywood, I must caution you, as he happened to mention where he saw you, and that we cannot be too careful in our contact with Mr. Molyneux. You of all people should be fully aware of his devious arts.
Yes, Mrs. Griffiths, I was very careful, but I believe he never meant Georgiana any harm.
Whether his motive is pure or nefarious, I advise you to steer clear of him. However, Mr. Hankins does assure me that the Sons of Africa are a very good sort of organization. He also is on the side of Mr. Molyneux. But we cannot be too careful. Georgiana is in her room, I believe.
Charlotte enters Georgiana's bedroom.
Charlotte!
Good morning.
Your sister's not with you?
She stayed at home. I can't seem to pull her out of her melancholy since my cousin died. I'm starting to feel rather dull myself.
Come now, Charlotte. You are not allowed to be bored during your first season in London. Ennui must wait till the second season. Have you attended any charming balls?
Just one.
Art exhibits?
Rembrandt.
The theatre?
We saw Much Ado About Nothing.
Is that all?
Yes, that's a considerable amount from someone from Willingdon.
Well, no wonder you are glum. I did more in my first 3 days than you've done in 3 weeks. We are going to see Twelfth Night tomorrow, and you shall come with us.
Thank you. I will.
And Mrs. Campion is holding a ball the night after.
Yes. We were invited to go with Mr. Parker, but I do not think I shall go.
But it is something to do. Please, come. I would rather sit with you than those giggling gits.
Perhaps I might go if you do. Is that a new brooch you're wearing?
No, I've had it since Antigua.
Georgiana takes off the cameo she is wearing to let Charlotte look at it.
Is this your mother?
My aunt. I have no likeness of my mother, but my aunt looks a bit like her.
It is very fine. I suppose your father gave this to you.
Sydney had it done.
That seems very kind.
I suppose. I hated leaving my aunt. I think he was trying to bribe me into better humor.
Did it work?
No, but this means a lot to me now. It's the only reminder of her that I have. Look here, it opens.
Oh.
It is a lock of her hair. I keep it close to me when I am homesick.
The next Saturday afternoon, Georgiana, the Haywoods and the Beaufords, along with Mrs. Griffiths, meet to walk in the park. The Haywoods bring little Jenny and Alicia Parker with them. Charlotte and Georgiana walk arm in arm, while Alison walks with the Beaufort girls and Mrs. Griffiths. Mr. Stringer is seen across the park by the Beaufords and Alison. He touches his hat to them. Mrs. Griffiths is giving sweets to Alicia and does not immediately see him, but Phillida notices him straight away.
Miss Allison, who is that across the way?
I believe it is Mr. Stringer.
Who?
The stonemason from Sanditon. You remember, you wanted to dance with him till you found out who he was.
What on earth is he doing here in London?
He is apprenticed to an architect here.
But why is he in this park? Surely he cannot afford to live in this neighborhood.
Perhaps he is studying the architecture of the fine houses in the neighborhood.
Or perhaps he is studying the architecture of the fine figures in the park.
The Beauforts giggle, and Phillida looks over at Mr. Stringer.
Not encourage him, Phillida. He will think we want to talk to him.
They turn away. Alison raises her hand to bid him goodbye.
For heaven's sake, Miss Allison, you will make him brave enough to speak to us. He's only a stonemason.
I see no reason not to be polite to anyone we know, especially in London, where there are so many strangers.
I disagree. Here there are gentlemen enough. There is no need to have anything to do with laborers.
There is no harm in a polite greeting, surely. We should have thought him rude if he had passed without greeting us, once he saw who we were.
On the contrary, I should not thought of him at all. If he knew his place, he would not even look at us.
In Willingdon, we greet everyone that we know.
Mrs. Griffith has been listening to their conversation and gives them her arch instruction.
Ladies, in the city, one cannot greet everyone. The attention one allows may deflect the notice of someone 10 times his consequence. You are right, girls, in not speaking Mr. Stringer. The glance you gave him must not be rude, for he's a good sort of fellow, but do not make it warm enough to encourage his approach. Now, shall we take a turn about the park while we still have the light?
Mr. Stringer walks out of the park. Alison gives him a last lingering glance as they turn around to start their promenade. Back at Bedford Place, Mary Parker is reading a letter from Lady Denham in the breakfast room. Tom, the Hayward girls, and the children are all at the table eating breakfast.
Tom, Lady Denham says she is coming up to town.
Is she, my dear? How extraordinary.
What is more, she has invited herself to stay with us for a week.
Really? Why does she not stay with Lady Babington?
It appears they have gone to Kent for a while.
I wonder why she does not stay in a hotel.
Do you remember the fracas with the hotel bill last time? She's not been back to town since.
Ah, yes, how could I forget? But why does she want to stay with us? What about the Breretons?
They may not be any more anxious to see her than she is to see them, since she's got Clara packing.
Is Lady Denham that richer than grandmother?
Yes, she is rich, but she is not a grandmother.
If she comes, will she bring us candy?
I doubt it. Now, you must not shout or play noisy games when she is in the room. Old ladies like to have it quiet.
That will be an interesting week.
Perhaps this is her way of putting us in prison.
The children, Tom.
Yes, I am just joking, children. When is she to come?
Tuesday.
But Tuesday is tomorrow.
So it is, my love. We had better have her room ready.
Mary rings the bell for Sims. The next day, Lady Denham arrives with Becca, her maid.
Welcome, welcome, Lady Denham. We are honored to have you stay with us. How was your journey?
Damp. I do not know why I bothered to travel in December. Well, I suppose I do. Sanditon is dead. No assemblies, no dinners. It's horribly dull. Now, if you will direct us to our rooms, I will set Becca to unpacking. I must have a room overlooking the street, or else I will feel too closed in.
Yes, of course, your ladyship.
Where are the Miss Haywoods today? You're not keeping them too busy with housekeeping, I hope.
No, no, at least I hope not.
Well, Morgan tells me you have a chef. I'm glad you're able to keep a semblance of respectability. Now that I am here, I would like to take the Haywoods about with me to shop and see a play or two. I suppose Mrs. Parker is staying at home these days.
Mostly, your ladyship. Ah, here is Miss Allison.
Good afternoon, Lady Denham. I trust you had a good journey?
Tolerably. I'm chilled to the bone, but nothing will come of it. Becca complains of a cold in the head, but I have not much compassion for colds in the head without fever or sore throat. You are looking rather ill, Miss Allison. Have you been staying out all hours dancing?
No, ma'am, but I've been very fatigued.
You are keeping too much indoors, I think. I should take you shopping tomorrow.
Thank you, Your Ladyship. You are very kind.
A couple of days later on a Sunday morning, Alison descends the stairs to find Tom Parker pacing at the front door, ready to be off to church.
Good morning, Mr. Parker. Are not the others down?
No, we are later and later every Sunday. Lady Denham has already gone. It's too much for Sims to help Mary dress and to give the little ones breakfast. But I do not want to burden you with our troubles. How was your afternoon with Lady Denham yesterday?
It was nice to be out. The day was fair and we went to several shops.
Did you find some nice things?
Just some ribbon for my bonnet.
I thought perhaps Lady Denham might have made you a present of something or another.
Oh, no. She was ordering a cape and some bonnets. Her way of shopping is very assiduous. It took us a long while to find what she needed.
Yes, well, she never wants to pay full price for anything. There are moments, there are points when her love of money is carried too far. I suppose you went to a sweet shop. Lady Denham does love her sweets.
Yes, we did. She bought 3 boxes of marzipan.
Well, I suppose that will last a while. Did you like it?
I did not taste it.
Oh, I suppose she would have offered you some.
I think she is saving it, perhaps for Christmas.
Perhaps. We will be late if we do not leave in 5 minutes. I do not mind arriving at the last minute, but we cannot enter after the vicar begins. That would be taken amiss.
Charlotte appears at the top of the stairs, peering around the corner in her dressing gown.
Alison, can you help me a moment?
Yes, of course.
Alison ascends the stairs to their bedroom, where she helps Charlotte to dress, and Tom goes to check on Mary.
You slept so late this morning, I thought perhaps you were unwell.
I have not been well ever since Charles died.
I'm sorry, dear, but I really needed your help this morning. Alicia will not have Sims hold her or dress her, and Henry upset his porridge all over the table.
I am sorry, Charlotte. I will do better. Truly I will. Here, let me twist your hair up and we shall be ready. Mr. Parker is getting anxious.
You can imagine. At least we can go straight into the church this morning, without circling the block until the precise moment when we can be seen by the most people.
Tom and Mary come into the hall as Charlotte and Alison come out of their room.
Ah, here we are, all ready at last.
Mary grimaces and pauses a moment in her walk and places one hand on her abdomen.
Is something wrong, my dear?
No, the baby is quite animated this morning. I think this may be my last Sunday at church for a while.
Really? I thought you had 2 more months.
I think I miscalculated. Maybe sooner. This one is very active. Whew, he tires me out already.
The Parkers and Haywards go to church, and as they lead the service, Mr. Stringer follows them.
Good day to you, Miss Hayward. Miss Allison.
Mr. Stringer, good morning.
Why, young Stringer, I never thought to see you in town. Do you attend here?
No, but I have been making it a point to visit a new church every Sunday so I can see as many styles as possible before I leave London.
A very worthy endeavor. However, I doubt we will be building any cathedrals in Sanditon soon. This chapel does not have much to offer by way of inspiration. Rather simple, don't you think?
Oh, I don't know. It's true that there is not much detail or lofty arches to draw the eye, but I noticed that the windows are placed to let the light hit the altar right at the beginning of service. That took some foresight.
You think the design is intentionally simple to keep the eye on the altar?
Exactly, miss. I see you have your sister's eye for design. The architect showed great restraint. In this case, it's absolutely right and absolutely beautiful.
I do not agree. I would much rather go to St. Paul's or Westminster. This building cannot compare with them. But it is a shorter carriage ride for my wife.
Perhaps next week, Tom, you might take the girls to Westminster or St. Paul's while I stay home.
Have you been to Westminster Abbey yet, Mr. Stringer?
Not yet, but it's on my list. I try to see as much as I can on my half Saturdays. Then on Sundays, I visit a new church and take a stroll.
Perhaps we may see you about.
I will look out for you and Miss Allison.
Do, Mr. Stringer. It's always nice to see a familiar face in such a big city.
The next morning, the Parkers are eating breakfast as Charlotte comes into the room.
Good morning, Charlotte. Did you sleep well?
Pretty well, thank you.
How is Alison this morning?
Oh, she tossed and turned all night. I'm afraid she's still grieving so much that it is disturbing her sleep.
There's a bustle in the corridor, followed by Morgan opening the door for Diana Parker.
Good morning, Diana. What brings you out so early?
Oh, I'm always out early, Tom. You know how I like to be up and about. It was always I who rapped on your door when you were not up for breakfast.
Yes, you were very persistent.
Susanna and I are thinking of having a small party on Christmas Eve. Not a dinner party, mind you. Nothing extravagant. You will all be invited, of course.
How extraordinary. I've just been thinking a dinner party here on Christmas Eve would be just the thing. Something to tempt Miss Allison out of her melancholy state.
Oh, Tom, with all my heart. I would love to have a party, but I do not have the energy to plan it. Unless I begin to feel better, the rest of the season will be very quiet.
I am sorry to hear that, my dear.
My dear Mary, of course you should not think of hosting a party in your condition. I'm surprised to even see you at table. Rest is what you need, and lots of it.
Thank you, Diana. But I am still fully capable of coming to table.
Would it be terribly out of place if I put myself forward as hostess in your stead?
Will that not interfere with the plans for your own party?
A dinner party must take precedence. Susanna will be of the same mind. We can celebrate here just as well as Park Place.
What do you say, Mary? I do not want you to be uneasy, but it is almost expected that the Parkers would have a Christmas party.
Diana, I would be only too grateful for you to handle the arrangements. Our chef is at your disposal, of course, but you must give him some guidance on the expenditures. I do not think he knows the meaning of the word economy.
To be sure, Mary, I will send him to my own butcher. He does not dare overcharge me. I have set him down too many times.
Mrs. Griffiths, the Beauforts, Georgiana, the Hayward sisters, and James Stringer are assembled inside St. Paul's Cathedral. Mrs. Griffiths admonishes her three pupils.
Now, girls, this will serve as your art history lesson for this week. So listen well, and when it is over, let us make sure we express our deep appreciation to the guide and to Mr. Stringer, who arranged the tour.
Faith, I will be glad when I do not have to listen to her prattling.
How is it you managed to private tour for us, Mr. Stringer?
Oh, I took a tour myself here last week. I asked a few detailed questions, and the guide was very happy to talk. This gentleman has studied some with John Nash. He knows what he's about, and he likes to talk to people who are truly interested.
Well, you must have impressed him.
I don't know about that, miss, but people generally like to talk if you ask a good question.
And do you have some good questions for him today?
I have one or two.
Oh, such as?
Well, I wonder why the sound echoes so much in here. I know it must have to do with the materials in the large space, but maybe there's more to it than that. I come here for Evensong last Sunday, and the music was all around me. I'd never heard anything like it.
Are you fond of music, Mr. Stringer?
I don't have much experience of it, miss, but for playing a couple tunes on my uncle's old fiddle.
I would like to hear you play the fiddle.
I don't think you would, miss. I can hardly hail the souls of men's bodies with my playing. But when I hear the choir here, I thought I were listening to angels.
Perhaps Mr. Parker might bring us to some time to hear the choir.
It would be well worth it, Miss Allison.
The tour guide leads them into the nave and starts his tour. Philip de Beaufort takes Alison's arm and they stay close to Mr. Stringer at the head of the party.
If I didn't know better, I'd say Mr. Stringer fancies the company of your sister.
You think so?
It's obvious from the way he's always looking at her. Does she not realize it?
I doubt it.
Would your father put an end to that idea?
My mother, most likely. He might be able to persuade my father to allow the match. My father's father was a carpenter, as well as a farmer, before he married my grandmother, who had some property.
Georgiana pretends to be shocked and looks around to see if anyone has heard.
Shh, Charlotte, do not say such things. If the beau monde hears of the savagery of your relations, you'll be shunned from proper society.
It is a very great secret.
Your secret is safe with me.
The next morning, Mrs. Campion pays a call on Mary Parker and Alison. Charlotte decides to remain above stairs with the children.
Good morning, Mrs. Campion.
Good morning. Please call me Eliza. We will be family soon enough.
May I present Miss Alison Hayward?
How do you do?
Well, I thank you.
Is this your first season in London?
Yes, it is.
I think you will do very well with the right wardrobe and Mr. Parker to introduce you. You have a very pretty face.
Thank you, ma'am, but I did not come to London to find a husband.
Of course. There is no rush. You are very young. One must enjoy oneself for a while and look about.
Miss Allison is in mourning for her cousin, who was to marry her in November.
I'm sorry to hear of it.
Alicia comes in timidly and stands by her mother, with her head turned away from Mrs. Campion.
Is she going to marry Uncle Sidney?
Yes, dearest. Now give her a curtsy and run along upstairs.
But what about Charlotte? Will Charlotte come to our Uncle Sidney's picnic if he marries her?
Alicia points at Mrs. Campion and stares. Mary draws Alicia's hand down.
Do not point, darling. This is wintertime. We won't have any picnics for a long while.
Charlotte appears at the doorway with baby James in her arms.
Oh, pardon me. It took a moment to realise where Alicia had gone. Good day, Mrs. Campion.
Miss Haywood.
Give the baby to Sims, Charlotte, and take tea with us.
Thank you. Mary, please excuse me. I had better go back upstairs. Sims is busy helping Lady Denham's maid with something. Shall I take Alicia upstairs with me?
Dearest, go with Charlotte. There's a good girl. I fear my daughter does not yet know the meaning of seen and not heard. Are you fond of children, Eliza?
Your children are delightful, but I confess I am not overly fond of them in general.
I see. Motherhood is more difficult than I expected, but the joy more than makes up for any hardship.
Indeed. As long as one has a nursemaid who keeps them well in hand, I do not see any real difficulty.
Oh, but a mother does worry about a great many things regarding her children.
Who is your maid? Do you need a better one?
Oh, we are between nursery maids at present. Charlotte and Alison are wonderful with the children. I am sure we will hire another by and by.
But surely it's not difficult to find one in London. I could give you some names.
No, do not bother. You are most kind. And how are you finding the society this season? I have not been out of late.
Oh, the usual people are here. I would rather have had a change this winter. I nearly persuaded Sidney to go to the continent, but he would go to Antigua.
Goodness. Are there not enough shops and theatres in London?
We do have some excellent shops, I grant you, but when one has seen them all, and there has been nothing exceptional in the theatre for a 12-month, I believe this may be my last season in London for a while.
Indeed.
Sidney's tired of the city, so we may stay very snug at Everleigh this winter.
I hope you will come to Sanditon for the summer, after your wedding trip.
We shall see. We will likely take a long tour to some place or another.
Where would you like to go?
Where we go does not signify, just somewhere other than here.
Ah, yes. Anywhere, whether at home or abroad, will suit young lovers.
Yes, exactly.
A few days later, it was Christmas Eve, the night of the Parkers' Christmas party. Tonight we shall meet Miss Susanna Parker, the eldest and ever-ill sister. She and Diana are seated on either side of Lady Denham in the Bedford Place dining room. Mr. Tracy and Mrs. Campion are also in attendance. After dinner, Tom stands at the head of the table to make a speech.
We are so pleased for you all to join us on the eve of the blessed day. I would like to raise a toast to my brother, who could not be here, to Sidney, who, if blessed with fair winds, will soon land in Antigua, and to my future sister-in-law, Mrs. Eliza Campion, to Sidney and Eliza.
Sidney and Eliza. I say, Mrs. Campion, when is the wedding to take place between you and Mr. Sidney? I thought you would have secured him before he sailed away.
Mr. Parker and I do not want to be rushed into our plans, and I favor a spring wedding over one in the gray winter.
Well, I wouldn't be waiting one more moment after he steps off the boat. He never stays in any place very long, and you will be running after him all over the continent. He's more gypsy than gentleman, I dare say.
I beg your pardon, Lady Denham, but I do not believe I will be doing any running apart from the tours we take together. As soon as he is home, we will marry, and we will make our home in Everleigh.
I hope you're right. And I hope you're right for Tom Parker's sake as well.
Your ladyship, I understand that this is your first time in town in many years.
Why, yes. The hotels here are monstrously expensive, which is why I do not come for the season. But there is no one left in Sanditon, so I decided to come where the people are. And I need to find a dentist who will relieve me of a bad tooth. Miss Parker, I'm sure you are acquainted with all the dentists about London. Could you give me the name of a good one?
Like, Mr. Tilbridge has been my dentist for years. I've always been satisfied with him.
Lady Denham, you have hit upon the only source of discord between my sister and me. We are always of the same mind, but I cannot agree with her recommendation of Mr. Tilbridge. He persuaded her to allow him to pull 3 of her teeth, when a simple treatment of a sage would have sufficed. I have lost all confidence in him.
You forget, dear sister, that I tried all of your remedies before he pulled my teeth.
I know you did, dear, but I think if you would have persevered a little longer with the sage, the extractions could have been avoided. Lady Denham, I advise not to enlarge the purse of Mr. Tilbridge. I think he must be a lover of teeth and money and mischief to parade about to Susanna's teeth.
Let us not canvass it again.
Now, Lady Denham, there is a surgeon named Dr. Ford, whom I have seen for years. He completely understands my gum disorder. The gums are so often overlooked, you know. They are the source of all kinds of infections.
Did you not hear, Diana? Dr. Ford is retiring, and he will turn his patients over to a Dr. Jones at the beginning of the year.
Was it not a Dr. Jones who came here yesterday to see Mrs. Parker? He looked barely 20.
Well, he must be older than that if he is practicing already.
I am not inclined to have anyone practice on my teeth. I would not have him look at mine for a shilling a tooth and double it. I would be obliged if you would give me the address of Mr. Tilbridge, Miss Parker. I have no desire for a schoolboy to be poking his head into my mouth. I shall have my man look up Mr. Tilbridge after Christmas, and as soon as this toothache is gone, I will go back to Sanditon.
Already? But you've only been here 2 weeks. I'm sure Tom and Mary will be glad to have you for longer.
I had forgotten how noisy it is with children about the house. I would stay longer were it not for that.
Then let your ladyship stay with us at Park Place. We have 3 spare rooms.
But will not 3 adult Parkers make as much noise as 4 little ones?
You are mistaken, Lady Denham. Susanna and I barely speak a word to one another, for we can read each other's minds. Is it not so, Susanna?
Well...
And Arthur, he is out most of the time now, either at Tom's or Mrs. Griffith's. I have never known him to be so sociable before this season, but there it is. So you need not worry, Lady Denham. Our house will be as quiet as the grave.
I am not ready for the grave quite yet.
Of course, your ladyship. I did not mean...
I shall think about it and send you word.
We would be pleased to have you with us, Lady Denham.
Yes, and so say I. My sister and I are always of the same mind.
After dinner, Tom calls for Christmas carols. Alison sits down at the pianoforte and plays the Sussex Carol. Jenny begs her Aunt Diana to dance with her. Alicia and Henry follow suit with Uncle Arthur and Aunt Susanna. Soon almost everyone is dancing. Mr. Tracy and Mrs. Campion watch the lively party from across the room.
I can surmise what you are thinking.
Indeed. Am I that transparent?
You are thinking how tedious a small family party is when you could be at the Prince Regent's ball.
No, indeed. I find these domestic gatherings curiously enjoyable.
Yes, I can see that you do. And how fortunate, since you will soon join the family and spend every Christmas in exactly the same manner.
Sydney's life will be quite different once we are married.
Sydney Park not easily altered. I think it is you who may find your life very different.
Ah, but I have known him longer, Mr. Tracy. We have similar tastes in all matters of consequence.
Indeed. And similar tastes in company, I believe.
Of course. To what end is your question?
It intrigues me. that you say that you have similar taste in company when you despise 2 of his 3 closest companions and could not care less about his ward?
I suppose you speak of Mr. Crow. He will drink himself into oblivion soon. Of Lord Babington, I highly approve. And if you are referring to yourself as the third, you are mistaken if you think I despise you. Quite the contrary.
The lady is well schooled in the art of the compliment. I thank you. I am pleased not to be despised. But in fact, I was not referring to myself, though I think I do have as much claim on Sydney as Lord Babington, perhaps more so than Crow. No. I was referring to Miss Charlotte Haywood. Perhaps you do not realize how much she contributed to the retrieval of Miss Lamb when she was abducted last summer. Sydney was more than grateful.
He did apprise me of her assistance. Do not think, Mr. Tracy, that I do not understand the nature of men. There will always be some young pretty thing that may catch the eye, but I am confident that the attachment which began between us long ago can withstand such temptations.
I am glad you are so confident in the strength of Sydney's affection. I do not know if I could be so strong if I were living in close quarters with such youth and beauty.
By all means, Mr. Tracy. If you prefer her that much, why do you not court her yourself?
Perhaps I shall. She is very handsome. Her sister, however, might be as handsome if she tried. She should never appear in black. I wonder if she even ran a comb through her hair. I say, my dear Miss Campion, one might think that the cat... Mrs. Campion. Said I something amiss?
Mr. Tracy smiles in satisfaction at the retreating back of Mrs. Campion and turns his quizzing glass back to Charlotte. Late that night, after the party has ended and the household is in bed, Charlotte awakens to sounds of commotion in the hall. From a distant bedroom, Mary cries out in pain. Charlotte sits up in bed and, after a short deliberation, puts on her dressing gown and comes into the hallway. She finds Tom pacing back and forth in front of their bedroom.
Is everything all right?
I hope so. I think the baby is coming. It is early, but it still may be all right. Sims is with her now.
Shall I see if I can help?
If you are sure it will not distress you too much, do not trouble yourself if you had rather not.
Tom runs his fingers through his hair nervously and continues pacing. Charlotte hesitates. Mary cries out again.
Surely there is something I can do.
Tom opens the door for her and Mary calls out.
Tom!
Tom comes into the bedroom and takes Mary's hands in his.
You will be fine, my dear. I am sure of it. You have done very well with the others.
Something is different. Oh, Tom, get Dr. Ford. Hurry.
Yes, dear. I have already sent for him.
What can I do?
Wipe her brow, miss. That's all I know.
Perhaps we should have some hot water?
Yes, miss. I will go to the kitchen if you will stay.
I will just go see if Dr. Ford has arrived yet.
Charlotte wipes Mary's forehead with a cool cloth. Mary seizes her hand with an iron grip.
Do not leave me, Charlotte. Something is wrong. I have never felt like this before. Ah!
I'm here, Mary, I'm here. The doctor will come and all will be well.
I'm afraid, Charlotte.
Charlotte shushes Mary and continues to wipe her face with her free hand. Alison appears in the doorway.
Is she all right?
She does not feel well. Tom has sent for the doctor.
Jenny's voice calls for Charlotte from down the hall.
I will see to the children. Is there anything else to be done?
Pray, Alison.
Several hours later, Tom is sitting in a chair in the hall, his head in his hands. Mary's room is quiet, except for the hushed voices of Dr. Ford and Charlotte. Alison brings Tom a cup of tea.
Drink this, Mr. Parker.
Oh, thank you.
Has the doctor said anything?
He says she is getting very tired. If I lose her, Alison, I do not know how I shall live without her.
Does he think it is that serious?
He says I must be prepared for the worst.
Oh, Mr. Parker.
Mary cries out again, but her voice is weaker. Tom stands up and turns to go downstairs.
I cannot bear it.
A baby's cry is heard, and Tom turns around. He opens the door a crack. Sim sees him and meets him at the door.
Congratulations, sir. You have a beautiful daughter.
Oh, thank God. And Mary?
She is very weak.
Dr. Ford steps out into the hall.
Mary? How is Mary?
She has lost a lot of blood, sir. I do not know if she'll have enough strength to recover. We can only wait and see.
May I see her?
Give the maid a few minutes, and then you may. Your daughter is fine and healthy. You can take comfort in that.
The baby begins crying loudly, and Charlotte opens the door with the baby in her arms.
Come in, Mr. Parker. Mary is asking for you.
Tom looks at the baby for a second, kisses her forehead, and immediately goes to Mary's bed.
Dearest, you did wonderfully. She is magnificent.
If I do not make it.
Shh, do not talk of it, darling. You are strong. You will recover.
Let me say it. If I do not make it, you must marry quickly. Tom, for the children.
My dear, there is no need to talk like this.
They need a mother, Tom. Let it be Charlotte or Alison. They love the children. Send me past over Charlotte for us. You must be good to them, Tom. They've been so good to us.
Tom turns to look at Charlotte, still standing at the doorway with the newborn. She has tears in her eyes and does not know what to do.
Tom, you must promise me.
Charlotte quietly leaves the room, jostling the whimpering newborn.
Of course, I promise to be good to the Haywoods. I could have no other opinion. You cannot, you must not leave me alone. My darling, I need you. I love you so much. You must try to get well.
Mary relaxes back on her pillow. Tom kisses her on the forehead.
I will try to.
What you need is sleep. Rest, my darling, and mend.
Out in the hall, the doctor prepares to go.
You will stay and nurse her, Miss Haywood. You will serve her better than the maid.
Yes, of course. But is she strong enough to feed the baby?
She may try, but I'm afraid she is too weak.
Tom comes out into the hallway.
Mary is talking of dying. Surely she is out of her head. Should you not stay?
I have another call, but I will come back in a couple of hours to check on her. The cook is brewing her a special tea that she should try to drink. Have you made inquiries for a wet nurse?
Mary had one in mind, but we're not thinking of needing her this soon. I do not know where she lives.
Oh, I know of one or two. I will see if one may come round today. In the meantime, give her some goat's milk or some mare's milk or whatever milk you can find.
Thank you, Doctor. I am so glad you were here. And you, Charlotte, I do not know what I would have done.
Until this afternoon. Oh, happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Dr. Ford.
Alison is seated alone at the breakfast table when Charlotte enters and pours herself a cup of coffee.
How early did you wake up?
I do not know. 2 o'clock, maybe?
Is the baby asleep?
Yes. I will see if she'll take some milk when she wakes up.
Lady Denham enters the breakfast room and sits down.
Happy Christmas, your ladyship.
I hope it will be. I did not sleep a wink last night.
Have you heard the good news?
From the mouth of the babe. I did not know such a wee person could produce so much volume.
She is strong. That is one thing to be thankful for.
The doctor is worried about Mrs. Parker. She's very weak.
She did not sound very weak last night, but I do hope she will be well. She does not have a very strong constitution.
Morgan opens the door and announces that Miss Diana Parker has come.
Happy Christmas, Lady Denham. Happy Christmas, Miss Allison, Miss Haywood. I am come to bring presents to my dear little nieces and nephews. But where's my brother? Where's Mary?
You have not heard, then, that there is a new little Parker?
Indeed.
Baby girl, born this morning.
Oh, happy, happy day. On Christmas Day, too. And how is Mary?
Very weak. She's resting now. Dr. Ford will be back this afternoon to attend her. I shall go sit with her now.
Shall I come with you?
If you like, but she needs rest.
Miss Parker, before you go, I have decided to take you up on your invitation.
I am so glad, Lady Denham. I'm sure we could be ready in a day or two. When shall we expect you?
I shall come today. Becca has already packed my things. We shall be ready after breakfast.
Today? On Christmas Day?
I did not get any sleep last night. Tonight will be no better. I shall be very unpleasant if I cannot get some rest. You do not live on a busy street, I hope.
No more than here, but you shall have the room at the back that overlooks the park. Suzanne insisted on giving up her room. I tried to deter her. She is so fragile. She needs to sleep as much as anybody, for she suffers with most awful headaches. But she was determined. She has very strong ideas of what is due to your ladyship. So you have the best room in the house, Lady Denham. I am sure you can rest there very comfortably, but we were not expecting you today. In fact, Susanna is still in her room this minute. I am sure she is still asleep, for she had such a dreadful headache last night from staying up too late at my brother's dinner. She can never stay up past 10 o'clock without paying for it the next morning. And she would take a glass of wine for Christmas, even though it does not agree with her, unless it is with a great quantity of water. She thought I had put the water in it already, but I had not. I am sure I had no idea but that she knew I had not mixed it yet. Come to us tomorrow afternoon, Lady Denham, and we will have everything ready. Surely Sims can keep the baby quiet for one night.
I doubt it. I already ordered the carriage for 11. I cannot stay in this house any longer.
As you wish, Lady Denham. I will deliver my presents then and wait on Mary in a moment and hasten home. Miss Haywood, is my brother in the house?
He is sleeping. He was awake all night.
I could never sleep in the daytime. I could dance till 5 o'clock in my day and stay up the rest of the day. When the sun is up, so am I.
It must be marvellous to have such energy. Well, I bid you all happy Christmas. I will be on my way to the nursery.
It's early afternoon and the children are playing with their new Christmas toys in the nursery. Alison sits in front of the fire, watching the children at play. Charlotte comes in looking tired and holding a cup of tea.
So how is Mrs. Parker?
She has hardly stirred since this morning. I cannot get the baby to take any milk. I hope the nurse gets here soon.
Is the baby asleep?
Yes, poor thing. I would like to do the same.
Surely Sims could step in for a bit.
I can never find her. And when I do, she's always had some excuse. I will be all right after a cup of tea.
The door opens and in walks Tom with 2 packages in his hand. He gives one to Charlotte and one to Alison. The little girls descend on him, clamouring for his attention.
Papa, Papa!
Children, there is room for you both. You sit on this knee, Ginny, and Alicia will sit on the other. Henry is happy on the carpet and baby in his cradle.
Henry looks up to see his father's arms full and raises his arms to be picked up too. Alison picks him up and takes a seat near Mr. Parker.
Papa, what are we going to call baby James now? Can we have two babies?
Why, of course we can, Jenny. But now that we have a new baby, we can start calling baby James by his grown-up name.
What is that, Papa?
James.
Am I grown up, Papa?
No, not for a while yet.
Is that a present, Charlotte?
Yes.
Sydney left presents for all of us. I was so sleepy this morning that it slipped my mind.
For us too, Papa?
You opened your presents already.
Oh, yes. Open them!
Yours first, Alison.
Alison unwraps a delicately painted porcelain hairpin box with a sprig of lily of the valley painted on the lid.
Ah, lily of the valley, sweet and pure of heart. I remember from my courting days.
Excessively pretty. I have never seen such a pretty box. It is good of your brother to think of us.
Sydney has always been a generous gift giver. He has given my sisters piles of boxes, gloves, and trinkets over the years, all very tasteful, of course.
Now yours, Charlotte.
Charlotte opens an identical box with Lily of the Valley painted on the top. She lifts the lid to find a yellow chrysanthemum painted on the underside with the words, "For my dear friend." She colours for a moment and replaces the lid before anyone sees it.
Do you like it?
Yes. I'm surprised, that is all. It was very good of him.
I know he is missing us all today. Hopefully he has good weather. Is that the front door? That will be Dr. Ford. Now, children, stay here with Alison and Charlotte.
Several minutes later, Dr. Ford and Tom come out into the hallway from Mary's room. Charlotte joins them in the hallway.
She needs complete rest. She's not out of the woods yet, but I have cautious expectation that she will live. She is not to be disturbed by the baby. I have brought you a wet nurse. She insisted on charging double because she came on Christmas, but says she is willing to stay as long as needed. She is waiting for us down in the vestibule.
And do you know the woman? Does she have any ill qualities?
Ill qualities?
We have always had our nurses from the village, where we know the families. I do not want to have a woman of ill repute in the house.
I do not know the family. If it was difficult to find anybody, but I think she will answer to the purposes for which she is needed.
Very well. Send her in. I suppose she will have to sleep in Mary's room until I can conjure up another room. Surely there is an empty servant room.
Lady Denham is removing to your sister's this afternoon.
Whatever for?
She cannot sleep.
Well, I suppose she has a point there. Actually, that is a welcome amendment to our arrangements. She will be in good hands with Diana. I just hope they can get along. Two strong minds in the same house do not always get along, Charlotte. Let us pray that Diana will not try to manage her too much.
Later that night in Charlotte and Alison's room, Charlotte is looking at her box from Sydney.
It was kind of Mr. Sydney to leave us presents. Is yours the same as mine?
Pretty much.
Alison opens the lid of Charlotte's box and reads the words, "For my dear friend."
A dear friend. That is sweet. But why the yellow chrysanthemum?
It is for sorrow and neglected love. Just what I want to think of every night when I take out my hairpins.
'Tis an odd choice.
I suppose it was what he was feeling at the time.
It is a very pretty box. Would you like mine instead?
No. I will take what he has given.
Alison hands the box back to Charlotte. She takes her hair down and puts the hairpins into her box. Charlotte does the same, but when she opens her box, she hesitates, then replaces the lid and puts it to the far side of the dressing table, laying the pins elsewhere in their usual place.
Thank you for joining us for episode 4 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Join us next week when we will meet a young Dr. Jones, and we will yet again run into Mr. Stringer accidentally. From all of us at DIY Austen Drama, I bid you a pleasant week.